Hello. So this is Gauntlet community doing helping me out with another playtest of my Monsterhearts setting. Once again, we return based on the Wicked and the Divine comics by Kieran Gillen and Jamie McKelvey, put out by Image Comics. Go find them; they're amazing. It'll change your life. It'll be your everything. Oh my god! But we are here for our second month with people that have all done this before. So I think we're all sort of much more knowing of what we're going into, and I'm really excited to see where it goes this time. Like I told y'all, I'm just going to go through this like it's normal introduction and pretend that you don't know everything about what's going on and that we haven't been planning parts of this for like a week or more. Just wow, I have very complicated notes. Here we go. So just a general run through of cats for this game. Concept, like I said, it's Monsterhearts and Wicked and Divine mashup, which means like teen drama and wish fulfillment and mythology and fashion and celebrity worship. The Wicked and Divine sort of storyline puts an unprecedented amount of power in the hands of these kids and like takes away most consequences for what's going on in exchange for an absolute death sentence, in exchange for like the responsibility of saving mankind's spirit or soul or inspiration or whatever. So it takes the sort of like lonely, solipsistic, weak parts of Monsterhearts. Those don't happen as much. They get a little more amplified. Everything is turned way up and lit in neon. So the aim for today is that we're going to go through character creation. We're going to try out a setting playbook that I have that I stole wholeheartedly from Fraser Simons, like not even kidding. It's just equal parts of the Veil and Never Knows Best mashed together into wonderfulness, because I think Fraser does an amazing job of framing themes so that they become visual and stylistic elements of the game, and so that those stylistic elements then feed back into the theme. So I want to try and see if I can capture some of that. We're also gonna have some NPC layout. All of the characters are not gonna, or all characters, all the players are going to be presenting not just their player character god, but another god, because we are trying a sort of late stage version of this Pantheon, which I guess is getting a bit into tone. I've described it as the sort of end game Pantheon. It's the there are a lot of different ways that feel can come out. It can be like very debauched and very decadent. People leaning into their power, leaning into the ease and corruption that comes with that, and corrupting other people around them, or just using their power as they wish, no matter how it affects other people. But it can also be a less dark matter of just like very much going into the core of who you are or who your god is, becoming more and more yourself in this sort of like manic frenzy to live a life before you die. There can be that depression, that overhanging shadow of death. It can come out in a bunch of different ways, and I don't want you to think that I just mean make it all dark and depressing and sad all the time, and make it like dirty and horrible and awful people. What I'm interested in is intensity. I'm interested in, like, we've gotten past the part where we're fucking around and we can pretend that it's not real anymore, and things are sort of what they are. So we'll see how we develop that and how that comes out. But that's my sort of goal here. And then subject matter, again, talked about some of it, but there's sexuality, there's violence and blood, like mental health, self-esteem type issues, definitely rampaging ego and teenagers who believe they know best for the world and can conquer everything and will never really die, even though they know for a fact they're going to die. And a lot of like mythological elements weaving themselves in very like, honestly, most of the time sort of light surfacey pop cultural sort of ways, but sometimes it's interesting to delve down into the heart of like ancient myths and how they would play out in the modern world. um, So I am going to mention the X card, a safety tool, which is wonderful, and by a person whose name I can't remember, but it's long, so I'd probably mispronounce it anyways. But since we're delving into darker topics, Monsterhearts goes to dark places, Wicked+Divine goes to depressing places. Like, it can get weird, and it can tap into sort of primal coming-of-age emotions that you didn't expect to be there. Also, we're going for a very particular theme, which is sort of serious and over the top at the same time, which can be hard to manage. So for all these reasons, if things come up that you don't feel comfortable with, or that you just don't feel fit the frame of the story that we're in, feel free to say, type, put up your arms as an X card. We'll stop. We'll rewind a little bit. We might talk about what happened if you want to. We might just figure out how to move on without it. So now I've been talking for a while, and I would like to hear some of y'all talk for a while, because I am tired of talking. So I'm just going to go left to right. I'm going to start with Alex, if you don't mind. And I'd just like to hear like the 2-minute high-level pitch for your character. That'd be like playbook, name, your sort of personality, the god you chose, and like what drew you to that god. Just so that we can get a general picture of it. Don't get too much into like playbook details or anything like that. We'll circle back around for those things. So, Alex, tell us about your god.
Alrighty. I'm going to be playing Hoda. I think that's how you pronounce it. Former name Orsa. I think that's how you pronounce it. Who is the Infernal.
Ooh.
Yeah. I haven't got a picture up there because I don't know how to use Google Docs. But
fair.
They're rocking like long whitish hair with like a frost crown and like blindfold makeup. And maybe some mistletoe stuff. Haven't decided quite yet. In terms of personality, there's just like everything. The word mirror shades is like them encapsulated. They're just like the epitome of cool, but in like the frost sense.
Nice.
I was drawn to Hoda because betrayal, and also Ryan was playing Balder, and I was like, oh man, this is gonna be amazing.
So is it really that like interpersonal dynamic that drew you to the god?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
They're very much like the little sibling, as it were. Of like they didn't do anything that impressive other than murder Balder. So it's like this. I didn't even have words. Words are hard.
Words
but
are
yeah,
so
that's
difficult.
About
it. Cool. And I'm sure this will turn out to be an exception to the rule. It'll be a surprisingly peaceful and loving relationship between the two of you. You'll break that cycle, and things will be different this time.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, totally. No, I think that's good. So, Dave, you want to talk about your god?
Yes. So I'm going to play Faust. And it's going to be the Worm Playbook. So I kind of have a lot more experience with Monsterhearts than I do with Wicked+Divine in that I've never actually read Wicked of the Divines. I was in the last campaign. But I wanted to try the Worm Playbook, so I've been kind of mulling over how to marry the worm with a good choice of gods. And I really do like aspects of the Faust story, although it's not really a god there. It's, a person who makes a pact with, depending on the version, a demon or the devil. So I was like, well, what god can pose as a devil? And I kind of was doing some research and reading into some of the stuff on Puck, which obviously isn't enough because Puck is kind of a more modern version of some folklore. I think Shakespeare did create Puck, but I'm like, no, this totally works. So I'm playing. I'm playing Puck as someone who got stranded in with the gods, but doesn't want to. But is going by Faust because it's his name now. It's their name now. They made a deal for it, and is trying to find basically they're trying to find a way to get reconnected with Oberon, who they're madly in love with.
Interesting. So yeah, what was it exactly about Puck, the Faustian deal, that whole thing that drew you into that concept?
I just it seemed right. I think the biggest thing with the worm is it's a playbook that's all about possessing, especially possessing people. And I wanted a character who had a reason for wanting to possess people. And I think that trying to draw Oberon back into the world by collecting as much beauty in one place as possible is totally a compelling reason to play a compelling motive for the worm. So
that sounds cool.
Yeah. By the way, this is going to be a terrible character who's going to say terrible things and be very, very bad. So
we forgive you in advance and have the X card for these sorts of reasons.
The other thing I'd like to point out is actually if you look into the myths that Puck was based off of, he's actually probably a hobgoblin. And the interesting thing about it is they're actually they do trickery and things, but they're actually lonely creatures who like to serve people because it brings other people in their life. I'm like, oh, that totally fits well with the worm. So
nice. That sounds cool. So we'll move on to Lauren. And Lauren, before you get into your character, you had suggested a little bit up in the chat potentially using script change tools, which I'm vaguely familiar with, but I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about and how they go and why you'd like to bring them in.
Oh, totes. Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm very vaguely aware myself, but I like script change because it does kind of what the X card does, but you have it has different tools built into it. So you can say pause, we're getting to a point where I need to we pause and check in with myself, see if I'm okay, check in with other people to see where it's going. You can fast forward over material that you're fine being in play, but you just don't want to see it in depth, gore or body horror or that kind of thing. And then you can also rewind. So that's, which is kind of what the X card part of it. That's rewind that thing that just happened and then play around it so it just didn't happen. So it's sort of it has a couple more buttons to press that I think work quite well for games like Monsterhearts, where you are covering subject matter that people have varying levels of comfort with, and things can get to a point where you're oh, I'm good with this up to a point, but it's now sort of time where we need to chat about where this is going. So that's how I understand it working anyway.
Nice. Yeah, I can totally see that. That's vaguely what I understood too. So it's
okay.
It sounds familiar. So I'm good with using that too, and I definitely like the sort of pause function. I would definitely like people feel free to call that out if you have a very clear vision of what's coming up in the scene, or if things are just getting wildly off the road from where you thought they were going.
I think I've done it preemptively myself to pause. I think it was in Jason's The Between game where I was going down a Titus Andronicus cannibalism thing, and I'm it's pause, I'm gonna bring up cannibalism, is that fine? So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good set of tools to bring in. Chat would be semi-effective to catch my attention. actually saying it would definitely catch it. I know the Roll for Your Party has tools for that, but I'm not even in the roller page for this because I have too many tabs. So just to let you know, that's not going to catch my attention. So, all that being said, Lauren, I would love to hear about your character.
Oh man, so I guess like this kind of manifested from I just wanted to play Lindsay Stelling, which then, as my lovely cohort here talked me through, lends itself quite well to like this obviously violent motifs, and that being like a populist representation of the devil and Satan and stuff in like our current culture. So I guess like I haven't done a lot of reading on Satan or the devil or that kind of a thing. I'm just gonna go purely off of like populist stuff, which I kind of feel like is in keeping with Wicked, because a lot of it is like just based off of like our collective subjective knowledge of how these gods are and stuff.
I have said before, and I will say again, like the most research I expect you to do for this game is like a 10 or 15 minute Wikipedia dive. Like, don't go all out for it.
But as Ryan points out, she is from Georgia. Yeah, so I think for that reason I kind of went with Pan, because Pan to me is like has it satyr, like whimsy, and it's like evocative of the Fae, which is the playbook I ended up landing on. So Pan seemed to wrap up everything I wanted out of like music plus sort of like devilish temptation sending kind of things, as well as like more populist representations of like it's a sin and hell and Satan, that kind of thing. So that was how I landed on that.
So I'm sort of curious because, and I know we've talked about this in between some, but you know, you and David have landed in similar lanes with similar ideas for characters. It feels sort of like Faust. I'm gonna start learning names. I can do this. Faust seems to be more interested in that like acquisitional side of bargain making, where Pan's moves at least are more pointed towards the like back end when things fuck up with a deal and when you get vengeance. Am I feeling that right?
Yeah, I was totally like thinking of just Canon Lucifer, where Canon Lucy is a bit more like, I'm going to help you out and you'll help me out, but at the end of the day, I need to come out on top. I need to be like the one who knows what's going on and like sort of being in control. So that's sort of what I saw like from like Pan, in the sense that it's more about like what's in this for me. And if you fuck me over, you sure should bet that I will fuck you over twice as hard. Like whatever sense of the word you want to take that.
Dave, do you have anything to say about what you see as the contrast between your characters?
Yeah, so Faust actually doesn't care as much about the price that they pay. They're more interested in what they end up owning at the end of the day. So for instance, if Baldur fucks Faust over, but at the end of the day, Faust totally owns Baldur's ass, that's a win for Faust.
Oh my god.
Nice. All right. So I think it'll be interesting to play out like the divergent paths there.
And I'm going to be doing a shit ton of turning people on because I took a move about that and I'm going to use it to roll this one.
Amazing. Did everybody see the note in my various and fractured emails that you can go ahead and take 2 advancements to start with since we're experienced gods? Cool. Then Ryan, I would like to hear about your character.
So I didn't throw my hat into the ring for worst god this time around because I feel like I locked that down last time. So I'm playing Baldur. What all are we supposed to go through? I've already forgotten. Okay. I'm playing Baldur. That is my god. And my skin is the Hollow. And I don't remember any of the questions I was supposed to answer because I got distracted making bad jokes in chat. But what drew me to Baldur in the first place... Oh, heck.
Yeah, I was...
God damn. I'm on Studio 2. Oh.
I'm sorry.
Apparently, Google is finding ways to work around my workarounds for it. Because I'm using the old one, and it appears not to be working. Give me a second, I will switch setups.
Okay.
Oh, is it holding steady now, maybe?
No.
Heck.
Tyler and I had a webcam that was dying for a while, and it took us a while to figure out that it was the webcam dying. But we would get into calls, and somewhere between every 12 and 30 minutes, it would just go insane and turn us into garbled, robot-y nonsense, and we would have to drop and come back in, which is real fun when you're the ones running a game.
Okay, sometimes this makes it work. Is my sound
You sound reasonable at the moment.
weirding? Okay, I will cross my fingers that it doesn't go all weird.
All right, so to remind you, playbook name, personality, god, what drew you to the god?
Okay. Playbook, the Hollow. I've said what god I am like a dozen times because that's the only question I could remember. Personality, how to summarize really quickly. The one who is just trying so hard to be a good part of the team. They're failing. I mean, oh god damn, I'm playing the Tobias again, essentially. Yes, he is just knocking himself out, trying to be exactly what you want, and why aren't you happy yet? And it's killing him slowly or quickly. This is the end of the Pantheon. And what drew me to Baldur is, oh hey, Ragnarok, and he has no kind of personality or purview or anything really besides dies, and it's sad. The end. And you don't even get that story very often. They just kind of mention, oh yeah, there was Baldur, and he died, and that was sad, and then move on. So there's lots of room for me to play with it.
That's interesting. You're trying to like redeem Baldur and give him a good story.
Or just let him die and it's sad, and then people forget about it.
Well, we have options then. All right, then let's circle around and talk about the setting playbook stuff that I've worked up, which in the character keeper, the tabs down at the bottom, you'll see one that says pick lists and setting playbook. That's where it is. It's over to the right. So I'm just going to take a moment to adjust my volume because people are singing very loudly in my head. Oh, that's better. Okay, so we're going to start. Can everybody see, by the way? Y'all and my other stuff are on different tabs, and it's all very confusing. I can't see you. I just want to see your lovely faces. Anyways.
I'm glad I sort of speaks. I do that all the time. I'm like, I've lost you guys.
This is why I have an always on top program. So you're always on top. I can always see you.
See, I just like having 3 monitors.
I really need to get a second monitor. Anyways, so we're going to start off by talking about the city that we're in. So our game takes place in or near a major city, real or imagined. So we need to, in this, decide what we're going to call it, which we can decide some properties about it before we get to that. Whether that's, its real name, that's what we call it, or just a made-up thing like Central City or Capital City or any other comic book city name. So as a group, we're going to talk about the city, reach a consensus as to what elements drew the Pantheon to the city, i.e. what sort of elements you would like to see in the city. So I have a list there of some suggestions, but they're by no means comprehensive. And if y'all want to come up with something or add something or twist something, in all of these, please do, and we can choose as many items as people like. But I'm not going to call on people just freeform. Does anybody see something they like?
I really like the idea of museums, but I was thinking maybe instead of museums and monuments, maybe museums and galleries.
Cool. Actually, let me make a copy of this tab before we start changing it, just so I don't lose the work I've been doing. All right. So I'm sorry, that distracted me. Museums and what?
And galleries.
Oh, okay. Particular type of art or just all art?
Just art. Like, I think it'd be cool to have like a very active like art scene in the city.
Cool. Anybody else have anything to like add on to that? What you would like to see out of an art scene in the city?
I like the idea of smushing on experimental architecture, sort of like, Toronto, where they're building really modern buildings out of really old buildings, and it's just bizarre, and it looks like you video game glitched into architecture.
Ooh, cool.
And then I always had the question if it's like, what's the stratification of like these museums and galleries? Like, is this like posh galleries like the Louvre, or is this like there's an underground scene as well where you're having your own like punk art galleries or whatever?
I kind of like the idea that it runs the whole gambit. Like, one night you go to a gallery that's, in an abandoned boiler room of, this historic building, and it's all punk rock. And, the next you have like this high society gallery, in Uptown and, shit like that.
That's neat, because you normally sort of think of like music cities like that, like Nashville or Detroit or New York or something like that, where you have just this broad spectrum of if you want to be doing music, like you need to come here no matter what it is. But you don't think of those so many for art, to have like all different levels of just it's people come here to make art.
I feel like that's the case. Shia LaBeouf has to be there. It's like Shia LaBeouf's thing there, right?
I didn't quite hear you clearly, but I thought you said the Shia LaBeouf thing.
Yeah, isn't he like done with cinema now, and he's doing like punk art like installations and that kind of thing?
Okay.
Yes, it's all very odd.
I thought you were referring to the Shia LaBeouf song, which is fantastic, by the way.
Oh no, I was referring to the actual human being Shia LaBeouf.
What I mean is, he does make a guest appearance in the music video. Like, that music video is insane.
So does anybody else have any elements off the list or things they want to bring in as like what's cool about this city?
Does that mean fashion is a thing? If it's like art's a thing?
Oh yeah.
Like, hi, you guys familiar with like the world of wearable arts?
Mm-mm.
It's
The what?
the world of wearable arts. I know it's hosted in New Zealand a lot, or maybe it's only hosted in New Zealand, but it's just an opportunity for like, I don't know, like a up-and-coming fashion designers to make very avant-garde, like couture stuff, but it's usually out of like zip ties and like leaves or like random shit. I'll try and find some. It's
Oh,
pretty cool.
I'm totally on board for this.
Oh my god, these are amazing. Yes, I love all of this.
You said the world of wearable art?
Wow. Okay, I have to spend the rest of my life digging into this.
Yeah.
But I am into it.
I was gonna say, I feel so dumb for like, I was like, well, where's a good place to get wicked like costume inspiration? It didn't occur to me until now that like WoW is a
Oh, these are amazing.
Yeah, these are fucking phenomenal, Lauren.
Okay, so now I'm getting more. I'm gonna be finding more pictures for Faust.
Okay, cool. All right, so we've definitely got a very like visual arts are the thing in this city, which is really cool, and there might be some stuff later on to tie into that. Before we move on to the next set, is there any other suggestions, feels, twists?
I kind of like if we've got the experimental architecture of like old buildings into new. Maybe there's like an area of the town that's ancient history / like wonders. So fancy old buildings that are like there's preservation groups being like, no, we can't turn these into experimental architecture. And then the people in their like lobster dresses being like, no, we have to turn it into experimental architecture.
Nice, I like that. So I'll put in historical district. What I say, computer and society, in the sense of a historical society, which is obviously going to be meddlesome and awful. Cool. So there's some neat elements there. So moving on to the next list, and we can come back if people want to add things in as we go on. The Pantheon also has a communal gathering place. This place of power. Wow, I wrote that badly. It was very late at night. But it could be a building, a complex, just a general location. It can be newly built or repurposed, or both. It sounds like in our city. So what do we call it, and where is it? And there's some ideas for elements of its location.
I mean, this is probably just because we have Faust and Pan, but like admission for those who can pay seems to be like on tone for this Last of Us.
So I didn't want to say that right away, but I was totally thinking the same thing.
People feel okay with that?
Works for me.
All right. So let's talk a second about like the pay is in quotations there, because what does it mean for people to pay? Is it money? Is it goods? Is it something else?
Promises?
I was actually thinking like, so you can only enter with by invitation of a god, and each god has a different idea of what the appropriate price should be.
Oh, I like that a lot, because then you can have like obviously Baldur's is like sunshine and smiles and consensual hugs, right?
I like that. So it's sort of admission for those who can pay, but it's always like a sponsored thing. Like you always have to be invited in, or just you have to convince one of the Pantheon that you have paid enough. 1 pound of jelly beans.
Yeah. These are the best prices ever.
That's interesting. Okay. So we can choose more elements of its location, but what is this place?
Oh, it has to be some kind of like evocative of a museum, right? Like where we're kind of on display, but there are also like positions of power, right?
Oh, we could go for like a ancient Colosseum kind of like big ring with like the stadium view.
I was actually thinking like this is in the middle of like a really like inconvenient place, so people are constantly reminded that they're being kept out of this area because our space is right in their way and they can't get in without us saying it's okay.
That's cool. It sounds like we're the reverse panopticon. Like we're out, like in this judging everyone around us.
So if it's inconvenient to the city, that probably means the city didn't grow up around it, which means this is something sort of new. This is something put in here. So do we see like a sort of stadium, Colosseum, brand new ruins that what, just like grew up in the middle of like the traffic structure of downtown?
Yes.
So constant horrifying construction and traffic is also part of our Pantheon location. I like that. So yeah, have y'all left it to the city to alter things around your Pantheon, or was altering the flow of things part of like building this brand new ancient ruin?
Oh, I think we totally are responsible for this. Well, I mean, what do other people think?
I mean, I'm not sure how useful Baldur's going to be in rearranging traffic patterns, but you could ensure that they're very pretty.
I guess my sort of ask there is the aesthetic of the building. Like, is it surrounded in this constant chaos and construction, or has the building made itself fit in some way into the area?
I mean, I'm always a fan of chaos, so like that's my vote. But
I was going to say, I always like that. Well, it's always been there, but it wasn't always there yesterday, sort of thing. But I'm all for chaos if we want to have chaos.
I think maybe what it is like, since this was a communal like miracle that we did, and we all made it give it a life of its own, it's constantly like changing bits of itself in inconvenient ways for the city. So maybe one day it's like 20 feet to the left or something like that.
I had a really classic. I had a really sad thought about how you can compromise and have like chaos and I guess like order, which is of course like whenever a god dies, right? You're gonna have like the plethora of like flowers and like people holding like what do you call them, like the vigils and that, like so like hold their candles out and cell phones and that kind of thing, and like people mourning. So I could see if there's like a monumental event for like a god, like a god is born or dies or something, like this traffic being nuts around that part.
So, if I'm hearing this correctly, so no matter how beautifully and perfectly we arrange the traffic patterns, there's always, and Jay-Z is in town, traffic all the time here.
Yes.
Yeah, it's I can't help but think like the Arc de Triomphe, or like all the crazy like ring roads around Paris, where it's just like, yeah, that's
Nice. So I'm gonna put in shifts to make traffic worse. Delightful. I'm sure the natives of the city really love you. So that does beg the question. We never decided where this city is, what it's called, if it's a real city. Does anybody, we have sort of a feel of this place. Does anybody have a suggestion for a country, a continent, a particular city?
I mean, this might be fucking Paris.
Sounds possible.
I was picturing like Seattle meets Paris, like if Paris was hip, because like Paris is not that hip.
Do we want to go with a sort of hybrid fantasy city, something made up?
I dig it.
Sure.
I like the idea of hipster Paris.
Do we want to go European or American?
I'm people that think like if
Or I suppose alternatively, do we want to like set it nebulous and not care about what's outside the city? Because that could be a feel as well.
depends on how many Brexit references you want from me. I'm kidding. I will do no Brexit references.
Thoughts? One place, the other, the void. Preferences?
Oh, sorry, I've done a lot of talking. I should have.
You made a sound first. You have to talk. That's the rules.
No,
It's true.
I mean, I'm okay with sitting it like in a nebulous, like European place, because then I guess like it might be useful for like vague flashback references to like that gig in Stockholm, or like just conveniently putting other gods in other places or something, because we're going to be making up a lot of backstory, I guess.
Okay, so somewhere indeterminate in continental Europe.
I was going to suggest maybe Italy. It is sounding pretty good for Italy, and a lot of runes, a lot of art.
Yeah, I think like having access to that sort of just ancient history everywhere, and the birthplaces of a lot of mythologies could be interesting. Cool. Well, people be thinking about either a neat name for the city or something that we call it, and we can decide either tonight or by next time what we're going to call this made-up city. But I like it. It sounds cool. All right, we have more things to choose. So, the recurrence itself, which is talking about like knowledge of the Pantheon and its cyclical nature, whether people expected y'all to come back, whether there are any references to previous pantheons. So there's first sections talking about before the first god came back this time, before the start of this pantheon, how was the recurrence viewed / remembered? I'm not going to be the one to answer.
I was busy fixing a typo in your sheet, so.
I was busy thinking about fan fiction.
There are no typos. It's ridiculousness.
Well, there aren't now.
That was a beautiful theory.
I mean, I'm just going to throw it out.
Oh, yep. You have to talk now. Yeah, sure.
I'm just going to throw it out there that I am always a fan of a good cult.
I'm down for cults.
I'm good with a cult.
Cool.
I mean, that just allows Faust to have their own cult.
So that means there are some people out there that very much knew about the recurrence, or at least knew about the recurrence, and were anticipating your return, had in some way laid things out, prepared things for you, prepared themselves to use you, whatever it is. That's sort of cool. Do we think in general we like the cult, or we're like, oh, damn, those idiots?
I feel like it's... Oh, sorry.
Ha! I'm just talking all over everybody today. Sorry.
No, you go. You go.
I think other people may have different opinions, but Baldur is definitely terribly uncomfortable with the cult, but also trying to do his best to be what the cult wants, because that's my whole personality as the Hollow. So
interesting.
I think Faust is trying to use the cult.
Seems right.
I think for Pan, she's very like divorced herself of the cult. Like, yeah, I got what I needed from you, and like now I've cut the umbilical cord. Thanks, Mom.
Yeah. Hoder.
Oh man, this is a tough one.
Oh. You can develop it over time. I think in general what I'm sensing is like the cult's not an outright adversary. Like, you can at least work with them. And some of you like them to more degrees than others.
I like when they do things for me.
So now that it's here, now that it's public knowledge, it's outside just the cult. The recurrence is, I think a geyser of artistic inspiration would fit.
Yes.
I think also a marketing gold mine.
Ooh, talk about that for a second.
I was definitely thinking that Faust was going to be capitalizing on their fame.
Ugh, you're such a sellout. I'm just saying it now.
But look how many artists I own now.
Own.
Yes,
Being-
own.
Being popular isn't the end all be all, jeez.
No, it's not being popular. It's what you can get with popularity. As in, how many people can you get with it? And the quality of people.
We're
Like,
gonna
I don't need any trash people.
After this conversation, can I say we're also morally irresponsible / spiritually dangerous?
Oh, totally.
So, Alex, who do you think has labeled you as such? Besides anyone that's been in the same room with those two.
I feel like there's probably a lot of artists that have been like spurned by members of the Pantheon that are like naysaying us, being like, these people are all jerks. Don't trust them.
Do you think there have been some artists
They're worse
that like
for art than video games?
Do you think there are some artists that have basically like had their inspiration revoked, like had that muse of the Pantheon called away from them?
Oh, nice. Yes, totally. I love it.
Interesting.
I think they probably find like the warm embrace of those like purist historians who like are so pissed that we've totally ruined the infrastructure of the city by having our Colosseum here to begin with, and now everything's like changed, and now everyone's all about the experimental architecture and all that jazz.
Oh, the Historical Society is just increasingly pissed at you people. You're not only undermining the historical and like foundational nature of the city, you're undermining its morals. You're plastering over its spiritual aspects. Oh, it's awful.
And we didn't even get a building permit.
All right. So before we move on to column 2, is there anything else here in column 1 that's like calling out to people that you're like, oh, I wish we'd done that?
I mean, I like pop culture mecha, but I don't think it really meshes with what we're doing so far. So I don't know.
Oh.
But yeah, I like this world gen method. It's nifty.
Cool. We'll hold that pop culture mecha idea in the back of your head. We're still going to be talking about the Pantheon and the city, so it might fit in later, or you might decide like, oh no, this is definitely not it. So, column 2. Again, we've got some indications from what's gone on before, but what is the place of like the traditional media in your Pantheon? What's the place of social media? Who are your connections? Do you have particular newspapers or particular journalists or reporters you go to? Are there particular followers or enemies online that you have? This can be from anyone.
Given my look, I think I'm definitely the god of Instagram, but I'm also agree with Lauren that Twitter is probably still a thing.
Do you think any of y'all interact with the traditional media? Do you go through TV stations or newspapers or anything like that?
I think Faust has a very active relationship with Rolling Stone magazine.
That's pretty perfect. You're not helping. Okay, so but we feels like we lean a lot heavier on the self-directed social media, internet sort of culture.
Yeah, I'm thinking Baldur at least probably doesn't have a newspaper tie, but has probably done every Q&A sort of thing. And Ask Me Everything and so on. Can't say no.
Wait, you can't say no? Awesome.
I can to you, you jerk.
So yeah, I'd like to know some interesting, over-the-top, impossible, miraculous aspects of the Pantheon Coliseum. Obviously, we've talked about like how it came up out of nowhere and how the traffic goes around it, but I'd like to know some features, some art installations, something on the inside that is miraculous, nearly impossible, obviously impossible, over the top. And it's going to be a paint the scene, so we'll just go around. We'll start with Alex, if you've got an idea, or we can move on to someone else. But Alex, do you have something to start with?
I definitely do not.
Sweet. Does anybody else have something that springs to mind?
I do.
All right, let's hear it.
I guess my first question is, are any of us gardeners or have like a particular affinity with nature?
I got that sweet, sweet mistletoe.
Yeah.
So
I definitely have a floral sort of thing going on, but I'm not a god of flowers. I think that I just like appear in a puff of rose petals a lot. I don't know.
Cool.
So I think gardening does, like, I'm not sure if Faust would do it, but it definitely does tie in with, Puck, kind of, hobgoblins are kind of like homebodies. So, that could fit into gardening if Faust was ever so inclined.
Because I think of like Paris, Seattle, and I immediately think of like the Chuli. Is it like the Chuli garden in glass? Like
the Jehuli?
Yeah. Like with all the glass, like beautiful glass flowers and stuff. I think that has to feature if we're going to like a very visual arts kind of place.
What is it called again?
Chehuli?
Yeah, the Jehuli garden. The last name of the guy who designs all these glass.
I'll link you to the official website.
That's cool. So you're thinking like wild glass sculpture sort of things?
Yeah, I dig how I feel like our Colosseum sounds like it's kind of like got that traditional like marble-y stone structure going on. So I dig like this very vibrant pop of like neon glass like flowers that are like maybe wrap themselves in and out of like all the crevices there and stuff. So it looks very organic, but it's very like man-made materials, very like artificial, like experimental architecture.
Nice. So sort of.
Which is also going to be a Pelican nightmare to clean up whenever someone breaks it, right? And there's just glass all over the road.
So I think I've got a over the top paint the scene.
All right.
Any mortal who sticks around for long enough, finds that the room they're in reshapes to be a box, and then outside the box is standing on a stand a gilded frame with a little tag describing who is on display there.
Wow.
So basically, our visitors eventually become art installations. They're not trapped there. They just realize, it just becomes you're walking down the hall and there's a couple of mortals and they're framed and everything.
Wow, that's pretty cool. All right. Ryan or Alex?
We haven't established NPCs yet, Lauren. We can't decide on a mope cave.
Oh, come on. Anybody can mope.
Well, I'm going to tie into mythology stuff, and because one of the very few details about Baldur is that his hall, like Breithablik or something, however you say it, is the most beautiful of all, and with the fewest malign runes, which is such a weird thing. That's like the fewest explosions or something. So I'm going to say that there's architecturally, impossibly or something, Baldur's area of this is like beautiful white marble and gold and everything, and it just clashes with everything around it, but it's pretty on its own once you get in and close the door. But also, you can't actually enter that room if you're armed.
Huh.
Or let's say if you have ill intent, however badly that is phrased, because that sounds entertaining to me.
Faust has never been in that room.
Faust just sits outside bonking against it like a sad cat.
Who says I want to go in your room? Please let me in your room.
So very much like my cat going, I don't want to go outside. I just don't know why you won't open the door.
Just want to make sure the outside is still there. All right, Alex, that brings us to you.
All right, we sound real rejective, so I'm gonna build on that and say, like, inside the Colosseum, there's invisible walkways where it's like you're stepping on air between places, but it's like solid and like gives a clink like glass. You can like walk out over the gardens on what seems to be nothing. And there's this like shortcuts and pathways that only those who've been here a lot will like actually be able to see and use.
Okay, so it's not like these aren't ways that you have to travel that are necessary to getting through. Like, there are normal, non-terrifying, non-invisible places to walk.
Yeah, but you have to be cool to use these ones.
Yeah, if you're cool and really know it, you can do the, like, flying trick, or you can see down over every... Oh, that's cool. So, in our, like, happy, gleaming, artistic inspiration city, we have a Pantheon that very much, like, draws in the needy and the gullible and puts them on display as objects. Which is just delicious.
I totally picture them as, like, statues amongst our, like, glass gardens, right?
Well, it's also great because they've come to see our show, and then they become the show.
Okay, so we're going to move on, and feel free throughout the course of all of these sessions, if you have more impossible things you want to add into the Pantheon, like, just do it. Love it. But we're going to talk about some general themes that we want to explore. So we're going to talk about what are some cultural or moral or sort of coming-of-age themes that we'd like to either explore or avoid in our game. So in this here, and we can talk about them, or you can do them silently, I don't care. But anyone should feel free to check any of the themes below, describing what intrigues them about a theme. Apparently I do care. I was very explicit telling you to talk about it. I don't know, I did this late at night. Anyone should also feel free to strike through a theme, i.e. click the box that it's on, go up to the top of the screen, and where it has like the bold button and the italics, you can just hit strike through, and it'll strike through it. You can feel free to do that even if someone else has already checked it. Because, like, if you just don't want it in there, if you don't want to talk about it, that's fine. We don't want to talk about it. If you want to explain why you don't like it or what in that theme is turning you off, you can feel free to do that too. We'll have time to talk about anything that falls into a gray area where you're not like, I just want to excise this, but I want to talk about certain elements of it. We have that. And we do start off with the sort of like built-in assumptions of Monsterheart, which I've sort of grouped into the stats. But sexuality and infatuation are always going to be themes. Cruelty and bullying are going to come up a lot. Violence and fear. We saw a lot in our last arc, and hopefully we'll see some more subtlety out of that sort of thing. But there's also confusion and mystery and misunderstanding out there. So cool. I see people are sort of taking a crack at it. Would anybody like to talk about the things that they checked as in like they really want to see?
I just like, sorry.
Before we get into it, there is a tone set I wanted to. I'd like to help me start level setting, especially because So there's something in the in my backstory for my playbook that involves basically me saying mean things. So I kind of want to level set what how far we want to go with cruelty and bullying when it comes to awful things. Because I will be honest, I spent a good part of my day chatting with a coworker online, figuring out what mean shit I could say there. And some of it I came up with was really bad. So I'd like to, have an idea of where people's comfort levels are.
I think my immediate comfort levels are like, I'm not quite sure what's collocation of words you have going on in your head, but I draw a hard line as slow as like bitch and slut and stuff. Like I just don't want any of that in my game.
Yeah, if you couldn't use the words in Slack without someone going, whoa, hey now, I probably wouldn't use them here.
Okay, but we're not, like, I haven't decided if that's how far we're going, but saying, like, specifically cruel things to characters, okay?
I'm not going to give a blanket okay, but that doesn't immediately make me go, nope, X.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, X card always on the table, of course.
I might be a good one to pause on as well, like rewind and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it sort of sounds like we want to stick towards, like, as cruel as this sounds, more pointed and directed and, like, very much about the person that you're insulting sort of insults. Does that feel right? Okay.
Those were the worst ones I came up with.
And I have a general problem with, like, cursing and controlling what I say, but I'll try and avoid bitch because it is one I go to a lot, and I can try and steer out of that.
I'm good with like general bitching, like bitching will come up, but it's like when it's used as like a derogatory, like no, you like bitch, like that's when I get ugh, yeah.
I know I used it once already this session. Was that over the line for you?
I don't remember it, so probably not. I mean, I will save my skill on bitch as like a gendered slur for another time, but I'm fine if people use it. I just don't use it myself personally.
Yeah. I think I said that our characters were bitchy, which was more of us being nasty and not like specifically because we're not specifically male.
Yeah, but having said that, yeah, I'll park my discursive gender discussions on systematic like use of slurs.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to know so I could make the effort to adjust my own speech.
And everything is nuanced. I get that, but it's easy to try and avoid some things. So if we can, we can. But going back to our list here, who wants to talk about mental illness or depression?
So I was the one who checked that, and I'm holding off on the alcohol drug abuse, but Faust is probably going to be somewhat predatory, but I was thinking of instilling a plot line with one of the NPCs I'm putting in where that person is suffering from depression, and Faust is kind of helping them take control of their life. Not necessarily in the healthiest way, but I also think that those are very interesting things to explore. And there's a lot of ways to explore it. And, I think one of the nice things about Monsterhearts is you get to explore negative ways that things play out in a somewhat safer environment than seeing them play out in real life. And, a lot of the, people are getting a lot better about talking about mental illness and depression in the real world, but it's still, I noticed that there tends to be only a couple of ways it gets talked, and then some of the harder things that are truths of depression and mental illness, are still things that people don't want to talk about. They want to say, hey, look, mental illness is hard. Hey, look, people surviving depression are tough, things like that. It's still not like, hey, this is really fucked up. Which is a very big truth of being in those conditions. Sometimes when you're depressed, you do fucked up things, and it's, you know, it's the truth of it. And that's one of those things that I'd like to try to explore.
Nice. Does anybody else have like a different angle on that, or an expansion of something in there that you'd like to talk about?
I guess basically the same. I'm okay with that, but it's a gray area for me. So if I X something, it doesn't mean I don't like you. It just means that it's not something I can deal with.
No, I understand. And full disclosure, I've dealt with depression since I was 11-ish. It's a reality for me. So when I say these things, it's because, hey, this is a part of things. But I understand some people.
I have no interest in disclosing my mental health history on camera, but yeah, if I X something, it's because I personally can't deal with it.
No, and I get that as well. You know, I'm in a good place with mine, so other people may not be in this. May not be as comfortable with it.
Lauren?
I kind of want to just like, this is more like a raise to something you said earlier, Patrick, that I thought was really clever and eloquent, which was often this stuff, like, you're fine with it until a point, and then it can escalate and go off in like a real uncomfortable direction just because it's Monsterhearts. And so I think like if we all play with that mentality of like just checking in or taking stuff like quite stepwise, hopefully it won't go off into that like kind of gross direction Monsterhearts can like wrench stuff in. Like, I don't know. That's my really roundabout way of saying like I'm on Ryan's page. Like I'm fine exploring these themes, and I'll do my best to speak my mind if it goes in a place where I'm personally not like comfortable exploring.
Mm-hmm. Good. And yeah, please, if you think that I might be going in an uncomfortable direction, please let me know. Like, you don't feel shy to let me know. I totally get it. Part of the reason I wanted to do it with this group is because we've played together, we've pushed envelopes. I think this is a good opportunity to do that because there is that level of comfort there.
Yeah. So just to add my own sort of thing onto that, I also like the idea of exploring those themes, but I'm going to add on, just to strike through one of my own things, I'm going to go ahead and strike through the suicidal thoughts or actions. Just because it's... So for me, we're coming up, I guess we just passed like the 2-year anniversary of my sister killing herself. So it's something that's still really fresh, and like, I just don't think I can control my emotions if we get into that territory. So I will throw that out there as sort of a like line, an end point to our exploration there. And I'm leaving off self-harm. I'm good with exploring that as long as it's for the intent of like harm rather than killing. That sort of. I'm good with hating yourself. I'm gonna stop talking. But
and I'm gonna piggyback on there because I did mention in our group chat some self-harm stuff, and I did snip out the self-harm angle of the darkest self on the hollow. Feel free to tell me that I went too far off base or something with it. I am fine with that coming up. Most likely, in most things, it's very specific instances that I myself cannot play without it going weird. So don't feel like you need to rein that in too closely to worry about me. I'm not Xing it.
Cool. So let's move on and try and get through some more of these. So who would like to talk about social media fame? I
just checked it because I think it would be fun. It feels weird to talk about it after a very heavy subject.
Yeah, it's cool. They don't all have to be like the most serious discussions that ever.
But I just like how it appeared in Wicked as a platform for, like, it's a very like dual faceted platform for fame. Like we sort of, I guess, sorry, David, you didn't see this, but like, we sort of did to Tara, like in the series, and I guess like it's being used for also like becoming famous and being like renowned and popularized and stuff, which is, I guess, a thing people aspire to be in some instances. So I guess I'm just interested in exploring like what fame means and what it does to us, and like what it means to be like on a pedestal, and
Cool.
yeah, that kind of thing. I don't know.
And I think I'd like to add on an aspect there. I'll add in toxic fandom there, just because I think that's an interesting aspect of celebrity culture, in that idea of like the things that people expect of you and the things that they get mad because they assume that you owe to them but haven't given them, sort of thing.
Yeah, like the earthquake in Japan, right? With the Direct, like the Nintendo Direct thing being delayed and people getting pissy about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I hadn't ticked to that just because I was like, oh, I'm about to come up, but I don't know that we have to make this a drive or anything. But I'm totally behind that because I like this thing. I own this thing. This thing should do what I want is sort of a lot of the angle I was leaning into already. So
Cool. I like that. Does anybody else have any like twists to throw in that theme set?
I'm just going to make one comment. I am like, for someone my age, I am surprisingly off key when it comes to social media. So, like, I always get the impression that the way I talk on like Facebook is just completely counter to the entire culture there. That's why I like my G+, it's because I don't feel so out of place there. But if I may go and like, if you're asking me about Faust's social media presence and I don't have a good answer, it's because
I'm not going to have a lot of detailed interrogations of your social media presence, since, playing with role-playing games with coworkers starting about a year ago was the thing that pushed me to get back on Facebook after having been on it for 6 months. At one point, long in the past, I hate social media. I run away from it. So I'm going to have the most like general, high-level, culturally misinformed approaches to them.
So here's a little background. I was in college when Facebook got started. I didn't get onto Facebook until like 4 years ago.
All right. So who would like to talk about impending mortality?
I ticked that, and I did so only because I feel like that's gonna come up since we're in the end of the Pantheon and death of the gods, and none of us make it out alive. In 2 years you will be dead. Not we need to sit around moping about how we're gonna die, and there's no point except to listen to goth music. Except if someone wants to do that, I'm also down for it because I'm a mall goth at heart. So,
but it sounds like you're interested in exploring like all the different reactions that can come from that sense of impending mortality.
Yes.
Not just the it's weighing me down and I'm sad.
Even if that's, well, yes, I'm eating bacon cheeseburgers for every meal. Are you going to stop me?
Neat. Does anybody have anything to add on to that? I think it's pretty straightforward. So who would like to talk about the evil that we leave in our wake?
That was me.
Delightful.
Yeah, I really just checked it on there because I'm super down to deal with like the consequences of our actions, and like no matter how famous we are on Twitter, like the things we do are very real, and like the impacts that we have on others around us.
Nice. I like that. Does anybody else have any thoughts in that arena? All right. So we also have a oh, interesting. We have a mixed reaction there. So we have a new contender here with the toxic but not violent relationships. We'd like to talk about that.
Yeah, I just added that. I mean, the worm is really about toxic relationships. That's kind of a hard book. It's a big part of the playbook. And I realized that that is a big thing that I was looking to explore with this. At the same time, I'm not comfortable playing a physically abusive relationship, and even like emotional abuse, I haven't decided what I'm willing to do there. But I think we do have a lot of setups for some very toxic relationships, and if it's going to naturally happen, I think it's important that we say, yes, this is a thing, so we can make sure we have the correct conversations, and really make sure that we say, hey, look, I'm doing horrible things in this relationship to your character, but that is not me, and I'm not doing it to you as a person. That's our characters, so we can, make sure that we're not bleeding in and bleeding out here. So
Cool.
last second, I realized we should add that.
I think that's sort of a good frame to put around those sort of issues. Does anybody else have any feelings in the subject?
I just put mine in the chat.
Okay. It's nice to know that it's sort of like very potential pause X card sort of area. So just to highlight them, I talked about suicidal thoughts or actions. We're also going to try and avoid racial inequality and racism. Totally fine by me. And romantic sexual relationships between adults and teens, which I'll be honest, having seen the won't board from last month, I definitely put that on there so that it could be crossed off. Would anybody like to expound on either of those, or do we want to move on?
I have a question that's not expanding upon them, but
yeah, what's up?
Should I put things that I ordinarily put on the want will won't board on this board, or should I also put them on the want will won't board instead, or in addition to? Or
let's try pulling them in here because
cool.
There's a lot of crossover between the two, and I'm curious to see if this covers the same sort of areas as that.
Yeah, I asked so I could participate in your experiment versus make it weird.
Love it. Into it. Do both. Participate and make it weird. So what do you want to talk about?
Nothing ever.
All right. Cool. So this is sort of an open-ended question, and it's feeding a bit off of Fraser's Never Knows Best thing, but we've got a whole pack of elements that we'd like to see in this world from all these lists. So how are some of these thematic elements represented in our world? What elements of the fiction are metaphors for the themes? It can be like visual motifs, soundtrack elements, ways that your fans act or you interact with them, particular details about the performances, special effects that come up with miracles, particular emotional scenes have certain comic book page layouts or things like that, fashion, makeup, dance sequences, whatever you can think of. Does anybody have a particular spark for what they think some of this translates to?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
It's vague. But okay, let me not just get rid of the window I was trying to look at. But when we're dealing with like toxic fandom or the demands of your social media people, are there particular visual or fashion cues that we see off of those people? Is there a certain sort of soundtrack feel that always comes in during those scenes? With the performances and the miracle type stuff, is there a way that like violent miracles show up as opposed to constructive or loving miracles? Is there a way that like trying to sincerely share your soul in a performance looks or feels different from trying to impose your will on an audience? Did any of that make any sense?
Yes, I think all my answers are depends upon the god. I don't know.
I think I have a visual cue that we might put into descriptions.
Okay.
And this is a very comic booky one, but we've described the panels before. So comic book panels usually have, the black border. That's, the unobtrusive black border, and sometimes people play with that.
Mhm.
I think when that border starts breaking apart, that means that some character is really suffering from that, from some sort of mental state that's not good right now, even if they're not displaying outward signs of that.
Okay, so sort of like as the emotional intensity ramps up, as the sort of mental stability breaks down, our visuals start to crack at the edge. Like if we're talking about the comic panels, people are breaking out of the square mold, or things are sort of shattering and falling into each other. If we're looking at the world itself, like edges start to blur, things start to get confusing and splintery. It sounds interesting.
Can I say I am so jazzed about having this conversation at that meta comic book level? Like I love the idea of taking those themes and then talking about how it would manifest like as the comics. I think as Ryan pointed out, like some of this might depend upon like the god that you are and stuff, but I'm so jazzed about like impending morality being represented by like comic book panels that are slowly getting more duller ingredients, so like they just sort of fade out to black kind of thing, like when you're giving a performance or something, or like just really playing with like blacks and whites and the absence of light and that kind of stuff.
I'm down for us describing literally anything in comic book terms all the time, forever. So
Cool. It's that is thought pause. I'm sorry, Lauren. What was your like trigger there for the colors?
Impending morality just being represented by playing with a lot of like absence of light and black space, like black velvet space.
Okay.
Or like and so there's this comic book panels where there's a lot of isolation felt, and then where like you're the only color on the page, or it's very minimalist.
So we sort of touched on it some in the last run, but I really loved the fun and the sort of fresh, different feel of describing things in comic book terms and like page layout terms and speech bubbles. I'm definitely always gonna like default back to a lot of movie camera work soundtrack sort of illusions, but I want to try and lean into those comic booky feel. I think it gives a unique feel to the visuals and the feel of the world. I'm going to say feel like 15 more times.
I've said jazz to like 6 billion times.
I feel like I'm jazzed to see us mix our metaphors when it comes to media, so that there's a soundtrack for the comic book, and who even cares how plausible this is?
And if we're going to the soundtrack, I fully what is the crap is it? I think it was the film, but like just over the top references to like the notification buzzes on your phone and stuff, like the little like bloops. It's like you get a like just it's this in the series of them. It's like your notifications blow up like after you post something on Instagram or whatever.
Cool. Well, if anybody else has something in particular, that's cool. But if not, I think this is an area that we can like build up a thematic language as we go through. Like I said, this is a very like unformed proto question. It's something I was trying to pull from Fraser, but in his materials, it's also very unformed and proto, and you just sort of figure it out as you go along. So we will play with that. We are right here at about the halfway point, and that is the end of what I had laid out for the setting playbook, which I'm happy with how that went. It was a bit weighty in places like time-wise, and in places emotionally speaking as well, but I think we got some cool stuff out of that. Anyways, I would like to go ahead and take a break here. Just waiting for a page to load. That'd be nice. But when we come back, we will talk about NPCs and maybe getting into some quick scenes with people. And
I'll probably have to tap out before the scenes, but I'm all good to come in as Tan and be like, "What's up, motherfuckers? Like, I'm here for the next one."
all right, so I guess let's take about 6-minute break here, and we'll be back at 6 after the hour. Alex, I adore that picture for Hodor.
Oh, thank you. I was real torn between two of them, but I decided the whole like frost crown and like blindfold makeup was just too much.
Oh, it's neat. How do you say her name? Her real name?
It's Orsa, I think.
Ossa. Interesting. What's
Yeah,
that from?
I think it's Swedish.
Yeah, you pronounce that character O, like in a really round O, but there's no one way to
Oh.
pronounce it because English doesn't have that letter. So do what you will.
So cool. I was just curious, Dave. Is Robin Goodman their real name?
Oh, of course. But she's not going to tell anyone else that.
That's perfect.
I mean, it's me. Of course, I'm going to do a play on names for the actual mortal name.
All right. So I said we were going to get into NPCs. That was a lie. We haven't actually gone through like more in-depth character introductions, but we can start with Lauren, since running on a timetable here. But I'd like to hear some about your like your pick list choices, highest stat, favorite move. Don't feel the need to go into depth into everything.
Actually, yes, that's perfect if I can do my PC stuff, and then I'll just sort out the NPC stuff later, because I don't have any good ideas anyway. None of my ideas are good ever. Yes, so what should I run through again? Sorry.
So your like pick list choices from the playbook, particularly high or low stats, and your favorite move.
Oh, awesome. Okay.
/ dark itself / whatever.
my purviews are the god is Pan. Purviews are chaos, temptation, and then like I know you listed a bunch of sins to pick from, but I was just like sin, just all of them. So like
perfect.
Pan is going to be all about like I'll not ramble too much long, but I think it's interesting that Faust is going to be like quite punitive in their language towards other people. I feel like Pan is more going to be like you're like, here's a lot of nice things about you, like you're a special treasure, and then like to sort of lure people in that way. So I think we're going to see two very interesting different sides of like temptation.
Nice.
Fashion is, I wrote Thrift Story Fairy, which is a typo, but then when Ryan pointed it out, I was like, actually, that's pretty cool.
I typoed it too. I didn't realize that I had until I went back and went, why does it say Thrift Story Fairy? My phone hates typos. It hates words.
I hadn't caught that. That's really neat.
Luckily, our typos together meant that I was like, I will keep Thrift Story Fairy. So like, yeah, it's very like the look she's got there is very like thrift shop jacket with like the like rose on black, like a lapel kind of look with the very garish like feathers coming off kind of thing. I imagine that sort of swells down to like more of a fuller coat that sort of looks like feathers, and like she sort of like
nice.
Turns a corner quite quickly. You get the cool like billowing effect of like peacock in it.
Nice.
Soul gazing eyes, and I went for incarnation being Bartered Soul. I think this was a kind of I think Lily Villas was a pretty good musician, but then kind of like fell into the trap of like, but you could be more, you could be better, you could be loved, like you could have an audience that would actually listen to you kind of thing. So I think that was like how she fell into it. And I think when she had this bargain come through, she kind of realized that there's a lot of bad stuff to it. It was like, fuck this. Like, I'm going to make the most of like what I have here, of what was promised to me, and I'm going to come out on fucking top kind of thing.
Nice. Just to throw in there, since we have a full Pantheon in chronological order from 1 to 12, not 1, but 2 through 12, which number god were you?
Probably like maybe 5, like kind of early-ish in the Pantheon, but but not super late. I think like to the point where she at least like she thinks that she has the experience and wisdom to tell other people what to do. and to make a good bargain, like have to have that wisdom.
Cool. So important stats, favorite move?
Important stats, hot. And dark. I'm holding on to an advancement. I'm not quite sure if I'll put that into a stat line yet. I'll see how I feel.
Gotcha.
Favorite move. I think I have to. I think I'm such. I mean, I'm such a sucker for like the wild hunt, which is like when you draw upon your most feral manner, echoing the lithe movements of a cat or the ferocity of a wolf. Add 1 to turn someone on. Just because I think that plays it quite nicely with the Lindsay Sterling like acrobatics, like animalistic performance kind of stuff. So I'm going to do a lot of prepare for a lot of like stretching for a little bit too long and like high kicks and like splits and stuff and like stalking people down with ballet. Like just I'm going to be very, very acrobatic, which so
love it
in real life. And then I just am a fan of lore because it's just like I find the Fae playbook falls super flat on promises. And it often becomes a case of like the Fae's like, promise me this, and someone's like, I will, and they don't do it, and then it's not like a really good way to mechanize it. So I took lore just because it incentivizes people to like actually make those promises to get experience, and then you get experience when they break them either way. So it kind of makes it a bit easier to angle into the sort of making or breaking promises.
Cool. I love changeling games. I've been playing complicated deal makers for a while now, so I'm totally into like calling out those moments and trying to like meta discussion or flag our way into leaning into them. I'm also very cool with like you leaning towards moves like turn someone on or pulling strings specifically to get them to like go into slightly unintentional bargains or a particular turn of phrase that you take as a promise and things like that. So I'll try and have it on my radar, but like always feel free to jump in and be like, I want something to come up with a bargain, or I want this to solidify and not just circle around anymore.
I'll try and keep track of it for sure. But yeah, awesome. Sounds good. Oh, and then just speaking of strings, this is my player intent going into it. I fully intend on using most of my strings on Baldur to give them conditions.
I love that.
Any particular reason why it's Baldur?
Just because of I guess I'll get into Baldur's moves in a second, but just I love the idea of like when you get a condition mark experience, or the hollow stuff, like get a condition mark experience, and then more than that, when you take what is it when you cross it off?
When you take an action that embodies one of your conditions, allowing that condition to alter your sense of self, cross it off and add 1 to your roll.
Yeah, I'm going to give you real happy ones, and then you're going to feel bad when you have to cross them off.
It's just cruel. I love it.
That's a delightful crossover of personality and mechanics.
Yeah, I'm glad we played Never Knows Best, because like that, I was looking at the whole going, oh, this is like every Never Knows Best character. So I'm going to Never Knows Best Baldur for sure.
All right. Do you have any ideas for NPCs, or do you want to leave that till next time?
Oh, I might leave it for next time. I'm not fixed, and so I'll see where there's a gap in the NPCs and then put it in. At the moment, I'm thinking like sort of the Dionysus Bacchus one, where it's like more about like the more indulgent side of the end of the world. So but I think it might be best for me if I see the gap and then fill it. So I don't really have a set idea.
Okay.
And I have bonds. If you want to do bonds, are we doing?
Yeah, we are doing bonds here. Backstory.
Awesome. Sorry, I feel okay, cool. Actually, maybe put the Fae bonds. Yeah. I think one. Yes, you wear your heart on your sleeve. Everyone gains 1 string.
So everybody gets a string on Pan.
Very easy. And then my other one is you've captured someone's fancy, gain 2 strings on them.
Who do you think that is?
It could be anyone. I could see it. I guess I could see it being Faust. I could see it being Baldur for sure.
Either of you feel led?
I'd be down for that, particularly in a. I think that Balder was kind of a younger child of the Pantheon, so maybe he looks up to Pan in a way that he really shouldn't. She's a terrible role model.
Aw. Awesome. Yeah, I will take those strings and happily convert them into conditions. I will see how it goes. But that's my bonds. They're very simple.
Cool. So let's go to Ryan with Balder. And Lauren, dip out whenever you need to. So again, go through like your playbook stuff, your picks, your god and purviews, and then important stats, favorite move.
Cool. So again, I'm playing Balder. The picture I chose is pretty boring in a lot of ways, but I wanted that hair exactly, and nobody else had that hair, so that is my hair.
It's good hair.
Yes, it is very good hair. And my fashion, I'm going to skip straight down to flower crowns and soft filters. I think there's generally like a wreath of tiny white flowers or something in the really red hair and everything, so it stands out a lot. I would layer such on, but I'm not invested enough to Photoshop it myself. It would look terrible. I'm going to spare you all. For purviews, I went with beauty, because Baldur is the most beautiful of all the gods. Invulnerability, because Baldur is invulnerable to absolutely everything. Mistletoe doesn't count. And I went with prophecy, because there's the whole his dream of his own doom foretells the death of all the gods sort of thing. And why can't I still have Lauren's unicorn fun? Like, A works as well, but that's kind of so I think those probably work. Confessionalize. I left Incarnation blank because there's a lot of good options and I'm not totally sold on which one I want.
Yeah, you still have time to solidify on it.
Yeah. Lauren kind of went over my moves. I am psyched to gain 1,000,000 levels from gaining conditions and just like level so many times I win the game and the end, because I never level naturally in Monsterhearts, and this time I'm going to. Bye, Lauren.
Bye. Thank you for sticking around as long as you did.
And I psyched to try Blank Canvas, because that one looks like it's going to be fun, because I have to take these conditions to heart and act on them instead of just collecting them and letting them sit around and gather dust.
Nice. And backstory?
You've been taking your social cues from someone, and doing so has taught you a lot about them. Gain 2 strings on them.
So who do you think that is? And we can include Pan in any of these.
That sort of echoes the Pan thing, but if someone else wants to be my role model, that sort of works. And no, not you. I see you grabbing your mic. You're a terrible role model.
I was gonna ask, do you really think that Baldur would take their cues from Faust?
What about Hodor? You have a familial connection there. Familial.
Sibling
True.
gods.
Did we ever decide what we were in the end?
I don't know. I mean, that's part of why I didn't pick a thing, because I was going, did Hodor, however you pronounce that, ascend before me or after me or simultaneously, or was I your +1, or I don't know.
So many options.
Well, do you want to save that decision for when you hear more about Hodor?
Sure. Let's just say, oh no, I can't answer any of these questions without knowing all of Alex's backstory. Make Alex talk.
Sure. Let's go to Hodor and hear some about the other side of this sibling pair.
Okay. I feel drastically underprepared compared to everyone else, but I've got something and I'm rolling with it.
Go with it.
So I am playing Hodor the Infernal, with purviews of mistletoe, winter, and betrayal. Because, I mean, yeah, mistletoe does count. For fashion, I went with Vines of the New Black.
Love it.
Ryan, why? But yeah, so I figured like growing across Hoda's body would be just vines, mistletoe, like kind of like veins running like along the arms and legs.
Ooh. Is it like a static part of your body, or are they actively growing at times and changing?
Oh, I like the idea of they grow whenever Hoda like relies on the dark powers.
Interesting.
Oh, and then they bloom when they get 5 strings on me.
That's neat. So eyes, you went with Mirror Shade, Benighted.
Of course. Always mirror shades.
And then talk to me what your incarnation of Begged For It means to you.
So, I was thinking about this. If Balder wanted to ascend first, or depending on what relationship there is there, I'm not sure. But I was thinking Hoda maybe looked up to someone in the Pantheon, or was like, just really wanted to be special. And so Hoda, who wasn't intended to actually be in this Pantheon, begged the dark power for it. And got given these like powers out of turn, but in return has to do the bidding.
So who do you see, or what do you see as that dark power? Is it the Ancient One? Is it Hodor? Like, was it some connection in you that lets you find a god and make a pact with them? Is it?
I was thinking it was
Balder?
the Ancient One, because the Ancient One never seems to have our best interests at heart. But
Nyx is obviously very nice, and she's very interested in seeing all of you thrive and prosper.
Oh, well, in that case, nothing can go wrong.
And you just casually mentioned, so is the infernal, dark one Balder? I mean, that makes sense. I'm like, no! How dare you impugn my honor?
There are so many possibilities. Who knows what it is this time?
I'm totally down for Balder being sort of an ascended casual fan, sort of like in the comics Dionysus went to a show once, and then he shows up again and he's a god, and everyone's like, did I meet you once? You're vaguely familiar. And then was like, Hodor so desperately wants to be part of the Pantheon, and it's just, oh yeah, I'll put in a good word for you. Maybe they'll listen to me. And then, ha ha ha, you're trapped now.
Neat. So, Alex, talk to me about your favorite move. Oh, and your important stat notes.
Oh, stat notes. I went for Volatile 2, Dark 1. Mainly because trading away your soul to be special for 2 years seems like a pretty, like, impulsive kind of move.
Truth.
Favorite move. I haven't actually decided all of my moves yet because I am woefully unprepared. But favorite of all time has got to be Dark Recruiter. When you bring an innocent soul to the dark power, mark experience.
Nice. I think that's going to be fun to figure out what that's about. So you're bringing souls to the Ancient One. That's interesting. Cool. So we're going to skip back real quick to Balder. You didn't think you got out of everything, did you? Because we do need backstory.
How dare you make me answer the questions? I was just going to leave them all blank, like the hollow I am.
We also have a question from you, Ryan, because obviously Hodor is going to have a higher number, but what's your number in the Pantheon? 2 through 12, not 5.
Would it help, Hodor, if we weren't at the very tail end of the Pantheon? Do you think that you tried to rope other people in that way, or are you leading us to the Dark Tower differently?
I'm down for whatever. Follow your heart's desires.
How dare you make me answer my own questions? I'm trying so hard to copy people's answers.
You get no help.
No. Let's say then that I was like number 9. Yeah, the first of the last crop.
All right. So, Alex, 10, 11, or 12?
It's got to be 10, right?
Cool. Ryan, you still have to ask backstory questions.
I do. Oh, and in the meantime, I filled in Pantheon Peripheral because I'm going with that. You know, like, he's a fan. Maybe he liked one of your tweets once, but no one really would recognize him.
Nice.
As not Balder. Oh, and I didn't go over my stats, but I started off with a Dark 2 and used one of my advancements to bump it up to Hot 2. So I am super weird and super pretty.
Nice.
Nothing about this could go wrong.
All perfect.
Okay, so I've been taking my social cues from someone, and doing so has taught me a lot about them. Getting 2 strings on them. I think I'm gonna do Pan for that because Lauren's not here to defend herself. And someone's seen through your invented past and realized it's all lies. I'm not sure that makes a lot of sense in this context, but I wasn't sure what to do about that.
Read it off again.
Someone's seen through your invented past and realized it's all lies. They gain 2 strings on you.
Was there any other skin that you were looking at to pull moves out of?
I'd been eyeing transference because I do your emotional labor and it hurts me, but the ghosts ones are even weirder, so. Oh, let's see. Nope, that doesn't work either.
I would help you by trying to look at other things, but my computer's just going to spin little wheels forever.
I'm just scrolling down, reading strings, seeing which ones are not in use and might be useful. I have no plans to take anything from the vampire playbook, but one of them is someone once saved your unlife. They gain 2 strings on you, and I like the idea that someone once intervened to do something helpful. I don't know. That could work, maybe. Or that I'm beautiful and I gain a string on everyone, but I don't know if anyone's actually taken in by Balder being super pretty.
I like the idea of someone having saved you. That sounds interesting.
And I kind of like the tragic irony of it being Hoda.
You could never betray me. You saved me. You're the best.
Nice. So what's the string transfer there?
So Hodor gets 2 strings on me.
Cool. And that leads us to Hodor's backstory. Oh, do you have more?
Sort of bridging my backstory and Hodor's backstory. Did you want us to have actual connection besides God connection, or just God connection, or I don't know, because I'm like open to all possibilities of this.
Me too, and I'm not quite sure how to narrow it down.
Me either.
Should we go for real siblings?
Okay.
Done.
I'm so sorry. So, is one of us older, or are we like actually twinsies?
Looks like you're older, Ian.
Well, I can always edit that as well as make my name mesh better if need be.
Yeah, I am not committed to my age at all. Should we be twinsies? Why not?
Sure. Balder and Hodor are totally twins. And I'm like, yeah, you'll be a god. And you got a god that's got even less backstory than me.
There was a lot of like stifled laughter when you came begging to make your twin into a god there.
I don't think Balder even read the Wikipedia page for himself prior to that.
All right, so we have twinsies who are 17, and Hodor has backstory questions.
Alrighty. Give me a second. You owe debts. Give away 3 strings, divided any way you like between the darker power and the other characters. Well, I mean, Balder's got to get one at least.
I have leverage over someone.
Congratulations. Oh, I like the idea of one between the dark power and then one for one of the deal makers for reasons unbeknownst to me right now, but maybe someone's got an idea.
I was thinking, because I read ahead to your other one, I think it might be Faust is the one who thinks that they can save you.
Nice. So I'll chuck one string with the dark power, and Pan will have one on me because they helped me out somehow in some way and sometime in the past that I'll figure out at some point.
Okay.
So is Pan was having the getting the 3rd string?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then your other question, which I think we talked about?
Someone thinks they can save you. Gain a string on them.
I already said, I think that's Faust.
What do you think Faust means by saving her?
I think Faust found out about the relationship with the Ancient One, and and I think Faust thinks that that they are the better option than the Ancient One, and that they would totally treat Hodor better than Nyxie will. I did look ahead on the NPCs.
Nyxie.
Isn't that who it was?
Yeah. No, I just like Nyxie as a nickname.
Oh, it's Nyx, but yeah, Nyxie. Yeah, I could totally see Faust calling her Nyxie.
That's perfect. I like that. It's, saving her for whatever unknown emotional reasons, but also to pick up a new client.
Well, a new piece of art.
Wow.
I have nothing but foreboding about this.
Hey,
what could go wrong?
I treat my possessions with the utmost respect and care.
So I think that's a lovely lead into Faust. So why don't you tell us about them?
Yeah. So Faust has the purviews of trickery, service, and deals. The fashion, I crafted my own fashion. There were so many that are great, but they felt more like this is what Faust is wearing today, whereas the unifying thing is impossible as my color.
Which is, it's beautiful. There were several of y'all that came up with custom ones that I just went ahead and stole them and put them on the bottom of the pick list.
Yeah. The whole idea is no matter how Faust is dressing, there is something about how they're dressed or their makeup that is flaunting the impossible. Which includes their eyes. Whenever you stare into Faust's eyes, you realize that they're actually your eyes.
That's cool.
That was one of yours. And for Incarnation, I took 2. So I think Robin Goodman is Nothing from Nowhere. But when she became an incarnation, she started making deals with the actual Puck, which started giving her the memories, which sounded like a good thing. Hey, I know all these things from the past, but they included like memories of Oberon. So now, like, who Robin is completely suffused by like this amalgamation of who she used to be and Puck, and that's how their gender identity changed, because Puck, they've been male, they've been female. Gender is different for Puck than it was for Robin.
Interesting. But I like that. So it was just this sort of infusion of alien memories or someone else's personality.
Yeah. It's like, well, if you have way more memories of someone else's life, your person than your own life, your personality is going to completely change.
Interesting. So,
that was my theory there.
And the bartered their soul.
That's the part where they got they got bombarded with memories. That was changing who Robin was.
Who did you barter with?
Puck.
Cool.
So for stats, Faust is definitely cold with a dark streak. And moves, there's so many delicious moves. And I want to talk about the one that technically I'd be playtesting because I wrote the move and I haven't had a chance to play it. I think my favorite move, and I have no idea how this is supposed to work, but the fiction of the move I do love is Bargaining Ceremony. Because trading intangibles sounds like an amazing fictional thing.
So I thought is that not one of the moves from the worm?
That was my favorite move.
Oh, I got you. What's the one you talked about that you wrote?
The truest form of flattery. I took one of the advancements. I took a move from another playbook, so I took one from the glamour.
Neat.
Which I have not actually played the glamour yet, so technically this is a playtest, I guess.
Cool. I'm excited to see that in use then.
Yeah, I was like, well, potentially I'm going to have a lot of strings, and let's find a move that lets me use them.
I like it. I was reading through it earlier. It seems cool.
So, that said, my backstory.
Mm-hmm.
Decide whom you treasure. Describe the moment each caught your eye. Give them a string. Oh, this is so hard. I think I wasn't initially thinking this, but I think I desire Hodor.
Neat.
Oh no.
The question is do I want the matched pair?
I mean, we're kind of a weird matched pair. We don't really match.
But that's part of the beauty. You know what? No, it's more interesting, I think, if for once Hodor is getting the attention and not Baldur.
This is this massive chain of deals going on, isn't there? So what's that? I get a string on you?
You get a string on me, and I have to describe the moment that you caught my eye. Oof. I think I was there when you begged Nyxie to empower you, and I saw the desperate. I'm like, I can craft that need into something beautiful.
Nice. So we talked about that you don't treasure Baldur, but how do you feel about Pan?
Everyone else is merely currency. That includes Pan. Now, I think Pan and Faust are probably buddies or frenemies or something like that. But yeah, I don't want Pan to be part of my collection.
Okay.
So
So, and there's
And then I have-
something.
and then I have to come up with mean things that I've said to both of them.
I think they come up with it, don't they?
Oh yeah. Okay.
So we'll leave Lauren's as a note for her, but Balder, what's something mean that Faust said to you?
Probably that, I'm not even really worth their interest because, pretty shell, no substance. There's just no point, and totally blew me off at some point.
Nice.
I have the line for this, and
Go for it. I was trying not to flesh it out too much because I assumed you had personality to put on it.
So this one's pretty harsh.
Here's our test run of your insults.
So I think one time I just went up to you and I'm like, "Are you doing okay?" If I was as pointless as you, I would be sad all the time too.
And Balder's probably just like, what? I mean,
I'm sorry, no,
hello to you too.
That pointless, useless is what I originally wrote there, which was so much better.
Yes, Balder's just an ornament. He knows it.
Nice. Does that cover all your backstory?
Yes, there's just the two. Either I treasure either I treasure people, or I am going to buy and sell them as currency.
Okay, cool. So let's talk about NPCs.
Ascension order for me.
Oh yeah, we do need a number. Sorry.
I think 2. I see Faust
Wow.
being the old guard here.
Cool. So I think Jormungandr, Jor, is going to be the one that came before you. So I'll go through what I have for NPCs real quick, and then wow. So for the ancient one, we have Nyx. You can see over on the NPCs and Places tabs, I have pictures for these people. Nyx has sort of like gravity-defying, impossible, amazing hair. She is that ancient, very sort of meticulously kept up, could be anywhere from like 50 to slightly past death. It's hard to tell because the closer you get, the more wrinkles there are, but it's always perfect makeup, perfect fashion. She's actually very sort of like friendly seeming. Is not like Zurvan was very off-putting, but deep. She's much friendlier, but doesn't tend to get into the like philosophical depth that Zurvan would. Much more shallow, empty promise sort of personality. You have Soma there, Claire, Indian god of drugs, holy drink, that sort of thing, sort of enlightenment idea of drugs. She has not gone with the enlightenment idea of drugs, much more decadent, debauched sort of personality. Definitely someone that hasn't slept in way too long, someone that stays out all the time. and has gone on some really bad idea benders. We have Eris there, Tanner, who's the Greek goddess of discord and strife, so that's always nice. Southern, sort of endearing, very mellifluous. Ow. Sorry, cramp. And very sort of condescending and better than everyone. You have Oshun, Monica, from the Yoruba African sort of pantheons of like cool water and bees and beauty and deadliness sort of combined into one. She herself is very high fashion, always very on point. She's also like has decided to use her influence and her performance abilities in a very sort of activist role, fighting for like gender equality, Me Too sort of movement, very active vocal feminist sort of mode. And then the previously mentioned Jormungandr, Jesse, just because Jormungandr is a hard thing to get out a lot of the time. Who is not inspired by anyone else, a completely original Chaos Snake of the end times, who has nothing to do with anything else that's come before. Stop making spurious assertions. It's just awful.
I'm a hipster doom snake. I was cool before it was cool.
Jor is very quiet, sort of whispery voice, very scruffy. And I suppose notably about him in the Pantheon, nobody has ever seen him do miracles, give performances, anything like that. There are some like rumors of things that he did when he first appeared, but none of y'all, even Puck, have ever seen him do either of those. So, I like to go around and get some of the other gods that we have from y'all. And this would be like human name and personality, god name, and again, what you think is cool about that god. And if you have any artistic touchstones or media touchstones or anything like that, you can share them with us, or just give us a general sense of aesthetic. So we'll go reverse order this time and start with Ryan.
I have one ready to go. I just need to figure out where I put the pictures and stuff. I have too many tabs. Oh no.
There are a lot of tabs.
Yeah. I have so many. I don't know what all of them are for anymore. I am adding into the mix Chernobog, sort of the opposite of Baldur in most ways, except he also has basically no canon personality besides bad news, does stuff we just don't know, which I'm going to interpret as totally a goth cowboy in the vein of Murder by Death, specifically Rumbrave. They're not goth cowboys, but they are now. I said that they have to live with it. And I have a picture that I will stick in here at some point. And his real name is Gabriel.
Nice. Eris was very nearly Chernobog. It's just funny to me. Sorry, everything on my computer is freezing up right now. This is fun. So, I'm sorry, did you say anything about personality in general?
Oh, no, I didn't. He's fairly laid back, doesn't talk a whole lot, doesn't generally start conversations, but he's always kind of watching, and he tends to show up on odd places, probably like moves through shadows or something, gothy, and is too cool for this, but not in the desperate for your attention sort of way Up is. Just sort of he's got his own thing going, and you don't really figure in. Or do you?
Nice. And if we want to give him a number, we already have 1, 2, 5, 9, and 10. But what number is Chernobog?
6.
Cool. I don't know how much all of this matters besides like first and last, and if you're comparing who came before who, but I thought it'd be neat to figure out. So, Dave, you want to tell us about a god?
Yes. So I'm putting down Claire, who is the incarnation of the goddess Nua. I think that's the... Yep, that's how you pronounce it. Nua is, as far as what god she is a Chinese creation goddess. She both repaired the pillars of heaven to stop the chaos, and also crafted men out, humanity out of clay. Her touchstone is Courtney Love. So this was where I was saying some of this was, I was thinking of coming in. So I think she is a god who hit rock bottom. She started partying probably with Soma, maybe a bit with Pan, and probably went through some identity crises and ended up in not a great place. So she's now living with Faust was my idea, and has agreed to kind of let Faust take care of her, sort of thing, which is both good and bad. Are people okay with that?
I am. Yeah, I think we've sort of discussed veils and boundaries around that, but I'm good with the concept.
Yeah. Okay. Just
My
wanted to.
thing is, we already have a Claire in the Pantheon.
Oh, do we have Claire? I can change her name.
Yeah.
Oh, Soma is also Claire.
Oh, I can change.
No, I can change. Claire was just the first name that popped into my head.
I was just going, I know many people with the same name who hang out, but it's going to be a little confusing if they're buds and have the same name.
Her name is Cole.
Cool. You can tell how solid these names are in my head that I didn't even remember that was.
I'm guessing it's probably a little controversial that, Faust is claiming ownership of Nua at this point.
It's an odd thing to say about another god, yeah?
Yeah. Are we still doing the good relationship, bad relationship?
Yeah, we will. Do you want to lay out?
Yeah. I was going to say that she was my good relationship.
Nice. All right, and Alex.
Alrighty. Again, me woefully unprepared. Cracked something out in about 5 minutes. It was a really good break length because I managed to get everything in that 3-minute gap. So I'm introducing Baba Yaga.
Oh, into it.
Nice.
And I'll just drag the picture over here if it will let me, which it won't. But
if you click the cell and then go up to the insert at the top, you can insert image and then drag something into that window or browse from that window.
oh, That is amazing.
Yeah, I usually have the easiest time just downloading the image and then uploading it into Docs. Especially because if something happens to the image and I need to redo it, it's on my computer.
That is the good tip. There we go.
Oh,
Oh,
that is great.
Brendan
Brandon
Flowers.
Flowers.
Oh, I instantly connect with this NPC. I love him. He's amazing.
Oh yeah.
All right. So yeah, personality and what you like about Baba Yaga.
Personality, I'm thinking it's got to be like the most out there of the Pantheon, like at the forefront of like this fashion hub that we live in, just trying on all of the craziest outfits.
Nice.
Just like ready for anything. No one quite knows what Baba Yaga is up to.
So very much into the wearable art scene that we were talking about earlier.
Totally.
Ah, yes. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I chose Baba Yaga because of that whole like fear of the unknown, creepy out in the wilderness, just loving the swamps, like the whole like beyond human reach kind of otherness.
Interesting. I like that. Cool. So then we'll hit back around, starting with Ryan for some non-god NPC. And
I put
as
all my brain power into the god NPC.
oh no, it can be very. It doesn't have to be deep characterization. We don't even need artistic inspirations for this. Just need like some half a sentence. And also, since you'll now have your god and your human one, go ahead and choose which one you have positive and negative relationship with.
Sorry, I was looking at things because I have too many tabs still, and I don't know where I put anything in any of them. Why do I do this? I'm going to add... Oh, fuck, names.
Names are the worst.
Normally, I've got a list of them, but whenever I'm looking at this list of prearranged names, I suddenly forget that names are a thing.
Your playbook has names in it.
It does have names. I will pick one of those names. Let's say January. That is a very big, fancy sort of name.
That's a human name.
Yes. There's all of like one human I know of who's ever had that name. This is probably a name that she picked for herself, thinking that it's super cool and she is also super cool and should have that name.
Love it.
Who I will say is just kind of a fan on the sidelines. Somebody that Baldur pre-Ascension probably knew from a show, and they still have a good relationship.
Okay.
Like, ran into each other occasionally, high-fived con friends sort of thing.
So that means you're on the outs with Chernobog?
I assume we don't get along super well, but I also assume that Baldur just does not figure onto his radar in a lot of ways, and Baldur would like to be buds with all of the Pantheon.
But he's just much too much to be dealing with you right now.
He's got stuff to deal with, not whatever that is.
All right. Then Dave, why don't you give us a human?
How okay are people with me using real life humans here? And me being a total fanboy.
Not delve into real person fic if we can avoid it.
Okay, because there was a celebrity that I was thinking of using. Well, kind of celebrity, but
yeah, you can just like fictionalize it a little bit and move into that territory.
It's Elon Musk, but his first name is James. Then suddenly I'm okay with it. You just need to like smudge the serial number.
Okay. Well, then let me choose a name. Um, I'm going to do Ansley.
Okay.
And he is a musician who, like, on his second album, produced like the most beautiful album, like imaginable, and then never wrote music ever again. And Faust has tried to get him into the fold to write more music and be part of Faust's collective. And this guy just refuses to have anything to do with it. Won't touch barely touches an instrument anymore. So it's just this musical genius is gone forever, even though he's standing right there.
Neat. And yeah, so that the negative relationship, he's not too happy about you constantly pestering him about this.
Yeah, and I can't make any headway with him.
Cool.
I will use the musician's actual picture, though.
Go for it. And then Alex, do you have a mortal to bring to the table?
I do have a model to bring to the table.
Okay.
It's going to be a historian named Franklin, who is not very happy that we demolished one of his priceless buildings to build this Colosseum.
You said Franklin?
Franklin.
Ooh, let me step back real quick to Nua, Dave. Why don't you give her a number? We have 1, 2, 5, 6, 9, 10.
8.
8. And Alex, you want to give Baba Yaga a number?
Oh, is 3 open?
Yes,
3
it
sounds
is.
like a good number.
Cool. So we have Franklin. Tell us a little bit about Franklin.
What in the public sector as a historian for a solid 20 years now, and very proud of his work, which we have destroyed. It's meant to be particularly bad with me, so yeah, maybe it was me who like punched the first hole in the wall of the historical artifacts that were here, like the first blow against his treasured child.
He was there to watch it. Oh,
Oh yeah, right in front of his face.
That's
Took the
awful.
shades off and just fist through wall.
All right. So that means you have sort of a positive relationship with Baba Yaga.
Yeah, I dig it.
That's cool.
I mean, who doesn't get along with Baba Yaga?
Exactly.
He's just so awesome.
All right. So we have. Oh, he's adorable. So we have some NPCs out there. We have the Ancient One, Nyx. We have 8 different gods on the table. We have 4. Well, we don't have 8. We will have 8 different gods. We have 7 at the moment because Lauren's all like, I want to go do other things, not play games forever and for always. Ugh, gross. So we have 7 other gods. We have 3 mortals out there and the Ancient One. And so we're going to start at Ryan again. And I want to go through the group again. And each of you is going to choose one of these people on this list and kill them. And tell us how they died. And I'm seriously open to any and all. I'm not trying to secretly steer you away from anybody. It can be the Ancient One. It can be any of my gods. It can be something that someone else just came up with. But let's get to murdering.
If I kill the Ancient One, what does that mean for the Infernal?
What does that mean for the Infernal? And if you're fearing of like, oh, this was a really cool story element and I'm taking it out, keep in mind that anybody that we kill is gonna probably prominently feature in like flashbacks and divining the past.
True,
we
there's
can
the
we can
divine
still
past.
totally explore their personality and their story and their relationship. They just won't be in the present time story. So you're not like cutting off avenues by killing someone. You're just making things juicier and more exciting. This was my surprise I've been holding on to. I'm excited about this part.
I was wondering how we were going to decide who died. I was like, I'll just make a character who's already dead. Whatever, who cares? Dang, now that it's an option, I really, really, really want to kill Nyx.
I'm good with it.
Follow your dreams.
Even if those dreams are murder.
So, do you have an idea of the circumstances that she died under or what it looked like, or do you want a minute to think about it?
I kind of did, and now I kind of don't. And I want to hear what somebody else's is before, because I'm going to hollow through all of these questions and fall back into my baser mistakes of just copying your notes.
Okay, so we move on to Dave. You have to point the gun at someone.
Soma.
Oh.
So nobody's really talking like among the details. Among the Pantheon, the details are a little vague, but it's believed that Faust did something to Soma, while trying to get Claire to, or Cole to sober up. Like apparently, like somewhere in the somewhere in the what's the term? Why am I blanking on this? When someone is somewhere in the withdrawal. Soma showed up, trying to party. Something happened. Soma's now dead.
So sort of like last person to see her sort of thing?
Pretty much. Everyone assumes Faust just flat out killed her, but
cool.
Faust isn't talking about it, and Nua's not talking about it.
Things are getting rough up in here. All right, Alex, your turn.
My turn indeed. Oh, man. It's such a tough choice. Is it really a choice, though? Because, I mean, we've been killing everyone that's important, and, like, the next most important on the list seems to be Yogminder.
As long as you didn't choose Baba Yaga.
Cool. So,
if someone does choose Baba Yaga, the game can just evolve into us all hosting tribute concerts, and it was cooler than we'd ever be. Why couldn't we be Baba Yaga?
So tell me something about Jor's death.
Oh. I think Yor was killed by Tanner in a conflict.
Ooh.
They were arguing over something, and Tanner won't tell anyone what it was. But Tanner went out of control, and Yor didn't defend himself with his magical powers that he never shows anyone.
Interesting. I like that. That means we circle back around to Ryan to tell us something about the
Yeah.
Ancient One's death.
Yeah. So Alex asked in the chat if Hodor did it, and Hodor totally did it. Hodor straight up murdered her. It's all Hodor's fault.
Nice.
I don't know if any of us witnessed that or know about it or anything, but she's super dead, and it was super Hodor.
What do you think Hodor has said about that, Alex?
Oh man. I have no idea.
All right.
Everything I knew is a lie.
So I
What
think
if-
Hodor
what
refused
if-
to talk about it.
Balder witnessed this and is also not talking about it. Sort of thing. Like, I will keep your silent sibling.
I am so hyped. And that's the string you have on me because I owe you debts.
Mm.
And maybe that's also how you saved my life, sort of. I don't know. We can recursive this as much as we want.
Oh man. So many options.
So there was something that went down with the two of you there, and then there was no Ancient One. Ooh, that is
I mean,
delicious.
she was really old.
She's probably about to die anyway.
Yeah, she probably just dissolved into dust or something. It happens. That's a thing.
Honestly, her, it's sad that we lost Nyxie, but good riddance on her hair.
Her hair was
That hair
amazing.
is fabulous.
Everyone knows at this moment that you're lying and you're just jealous that you never owned that hair.
Oh, that was just as satisfying as I hoped it would be. That was fun.
That was amazing.
So we have 15 minutes left, so I think we're going to go ahead and stop there rather than getting into scenes. This approach didn't particularly save time, but I feel like we packed a lot more exploration and creation into the time we had, which I'm really happy about. So I would like to do a little bit of feedback, not exactly like roses and thorns, but I'd like to hear people's thoughts about the setting playbook, about the different pick lists and stuff that have changed this time, and then all this new information in your brain. I would like to hear a couple like wishes for going forward into the series. So Dave, you've gotten to start nothing this time, so why don't you start?
I like this style of setup. Definitely. I think the only constructive criticism, and it's not. I love your options, and I love like all the things as far as the options, but when it's coming to the appearance, the fashion, the eyes, and the incarnation, those are a lot of things on a list. Cutting them out, I'm like, no, but I'm like, there's got to be some way so it doesn't just feel like this big long list. So that's the only constructive criticism I have. Otherwise, I love it. I love it.
That's totally fair. If I was sure where playbooks were going to end up as like I move forward with this experiment, I would very much like to have them split up into much shorter lists than what they are. But until I really know where that's going, it's just a communal list, and I realize that is overwhelming, and I don't love that aspect of it.
Nope, and that's completely fair. Obviously, we had no trouble picking awesome things, even though most of us are like, these are so awesome, but this is better. So, not that yours was bad. It was just like, yeah, we had awesome things. And I think a lot of it was taking your example and just flicking it that extra notch. So that was definitely really good there.
Yeah, which is it. I mean, that's totally what I was going for, because I can't, like, the fashion list especially is so inside my brain that I just wanted it to be like for you to have out there examples to build your own stuff off of.
As far as wishes go, oh god, I just want to see how the fuck these people interact. Like, oh my god, this is terrible. I really hope that it's going to come off that we all care about each other's shit, and preferably in different ways. Like, I was kind of pushing Faust's design to be like I was trying to make them a controversial figure in the Pantheon, so that people can have differing opinions of, like, what do we do about Faust? So I hope that really comes into play. I hope other people's plot lines. It's the same thing. Everyone should really care about it. Like, I think that Faust is totally going to care about the Hodor killing Baldur plot line.
I mean, there's no chance that's going to happen. Hodor would never.
Siblings, it's that sort of bond. You can't break that sort of thing. Then Alex, any sort of Roses Thorns responses to the new setup and the setting playbook and things like that, and any wishes going forward?
This is absolutely fantastic. Holy shit. I loved every part of it. It might be an idea to have in the future like a quick setup thing for like getting into it faster. Because I know it's something you mentioned you wanted to be able to do. Because this way it's like a lot of fun and I super love it. But if you're doing like a one shot, it might be a bit heavy.
Yeah, well, the setting playbook, or at least the setting playbook in its full, may not come in the next run just because we've got to get so many people in and out over the course of it. I desperately need to find a way to make this shorter.
Yeah. Other than that, it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. Oh my goodness, I love it all. Yeah, wishes going forward. I'm super down for the interpersonal conflicts and this weird chain of like trying to get like one up on everyone else that we've got going on.
This weird thing where everyone's trying to own everyone else.
Totally. And a wish for myself is to figure out what I'm going to do now that Nyx is dead.
Hey, there's dead and there's dead. Just because Nyx is dead doesn't mean that she doesn't still want you to do crap for her.
I think it'll be a really interesting space to explore, not just because, it's the ancient one, your link to knowledge or surety or purpose, but also it's your dark power. And like you said, what the fuck do you do now? I'll try and figure out some details about what's going on there, but I think probably her death is a pretty recent thing. Since that does leave your character in such a confusing state, I think we should play out that confusion.
Yeah, totally. I dig it.
And then Ryan.
First off, sorry for killing the dark power / not sorry.
Don't be sorry.
Yeah, I really liked the picks list because I was rolling down it going, no, it's an option in the book that I could just circle to be none more goth. And I told myself I was not going to play a goth god this time, even though I've got tons of goth music I could pull in. No. But yeah, I was looking at the hollow ones going, like, empty eyes and blah. I can make them work, I guess, or I can put in an adjective. And then I saw that list and I was like, yes, okay, fine. I'm flower crowns and Instagram. And that's my look. Go for it. And it was a lot more fun. And again, with the incarnation lists too, I was like, I can do some of them kind of worked, whatever. And I was going, but I could be somebody's +1 or whatever. And it's everything I ever wanted. But why can't I play Baphomet again forever? Just in different incarnations.
Yeah, I think those origins really ended up being the ones that were like the most cross purposes to what we're trying to build here.
Yeah, like there were generally ways I could kind of warp them to fit, but the incarnation list is much cooler. It has all sorts of possibilities that kind of sing instead of going, well, if I misinterpret this word and then add on 2 more, ta-da! So it worked.
Cool. Anything about the setting playbook or wishes going forward?
I liked the setting thing because I was looking at it going, oh, I could just like tick 3 of these and ta-da, I've got a setting. Hooray! Let's just call it Cityville and we're good to go. But in play, it did take a while, but I think partly that was all of us going, so what are the possibilities of this? I think I echo, yeah, Seattle, Paris, Italy. I think I echo Alex in that were this to be a book that I bought, I would expect to see these lists sort of like in the back somewhere that if you're stumped, pick one off these lists, unless they get split out to playbooks. And then this, and then a list of, here are 3 settings you can just pick up and go. This one is, totally London except not. And
Yeah,
it's got totally Valhalla except not. And that kind of stuff.
The small towns approach to here is something you can bring to the table and play tonight sort of thing is very helpful in Monsterhearts.
Yeah, because again, as much as I enjoy these setup game episodes because I'm here for all of the Wicked forever, normally I really hate the load time. And one of the things I hate about Monsterhearts is that I'm like, we're going to play some Monsterhearts, and then we sit down, and then we build a sitting chart, and then we go home. And I'm like, so why? So if you can make it just pick up and run, then I will be psyched.
Agree.
Because not everyone is as fun a GM as you are, probably.
Well, and if we were going to be playing a 3-month arc that I knew that we were going to have stable people through the whole thing, I would happily devote all that time to the setting playbook and getting all of the story mine gold that I think y'all came up with in this.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I've got to introduce people this session and people next session and a new person in the 3rd session, this would be such a disaster.
I think that's most of what annoys me about session 0s, and that we'll have a session 0 for a 3-session game, and I'm going, so a third of the game is set up. Are we playing Mousetrap? But,
yeah. Yeah, so I've noticed that for one-shots on Monsterhearts, it can be a bit difficult. And I've played around with it too, using proto NPCs as opposed to, a regular seating chart and, other things like that. One of the techniques I use for one-shots that really helps to just get the emotional energy going real quick is right before we start play to really solidify where people's emotional states are. You play, you have each character play Fuck, Marry, Kill.
Ha! That's cute. Just do a brief layout of here's everyone, now make
Yeah, it's pick. We have some names, we have some vague descriptions, you don't need to go too deep. Okay, Fuck, Marry, Kill. Go. And all of a sudden there's, you can take people who aren't very well defined and you have 3 additional emotional ties to pull on.
That's a cool idea. I like that.
I mean, we did play Kill this time around, and that was a load of fun.
I'm glad that was fun. I'm glad that was a nice release at the end of, oh, this was a lot of setup and also some heavy things through it, and also just some I don't know. Just take out all that frustration on an NPC. All right, well, I think I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording here. I am super excited to see where this goes.